Okay, so we're going now today on predominantly quads for a leg day. What I tend to do is get the hip flexors and all around the hip area nice and opened up first, so that I can feel that when we get onto the leg press behind us here, then we can get the sort of the depth on the movement and things like that. So yeah, we'll work our way through. Use the adductor and abductor machine to wake up the hips. So what I'm thinking here is, as I'm getting into my leg session, is thinking, right, legs are a huge priority because on the day of the competition, the judges are basically below us in front of the stage, and what I've realised through talking to Darren and things like that, when we've been discussing the posing, is it's important that that's remembered so that you know where your focus needs to be. So I tend to do quite a long warm-up. You know, these legs have had a fair amount of work in their life. And they are the major muscle group. So we're now 11 weeks out as of yesterday. So everything's getting a bit more serious. We're nearly at the magic 10, which I'll start to really get excited then. 71.7, I think, this morning, kilos. So we're really getting quite low down. The advantage for me of getting down light early, and this, we'll soon see what happens, won't we? We'll know in 11 weeks' time whether this whole process works, but I'm very conscious of the elasticity of skin. Being an older athlete, you know, if I come from say like a heavy bulk down to a low weight, especially around the midsection, around the stomach and things like that, around the base of the glutes, I believe you'd end up with a lot of hanging loose skin, because the elasticity in that skin, as you've lost the weight, doesn't actually get a chance to tighten up. So by being light early, it allows me to live at that process, live at that place, and alter the look of my body and play with it longer. So first working set on here now. Let's see what we're like. The appreciation of good leg workout is, and this is why people really dislike leg day, is that, like now, my head is just banging after that set. Because no matter how hard you try, getting the oxygen in, getting it translated into those lower limbs, it's awful, because it gets trapped up all around the middle here. It's worth moving steadily between, because we want to keep the quality high. That was good. So what I was trying to do there was really keep the tension screaming through them. So again, we're trying to get to a point here where we don't lock out. I don't like the idea on a leg session of ever straightening my leg fully and allowing that knee to pop down in and then the pop out afterwards. You know, keeping a slight flexion throughout protects the knee, in my view, stops it from having that in-out movement. There's 200 kilos on there. Probably push more. I have pushed more lots of times, but I'm asking myself, is 200 kilos enough at this stage? And if, yes, if I do it enough, often enough, repetitions enough, sets enough, I believe it will be. progress comes from not missing a session sometimes, and that's sometimes forgotten. Staying on that golden thread of being able to repeat your next session because you haven't missed anything, because you haven't done yourself any harm in the first place. And I know that's always a tightrope with a lot of people weight training, bodybuilding. See, on the descent there, wow, didn't it feel it in the hamstrings and glutes as I'm drawing it down closer to me by being in full control. All right, last set on here. So let's have a bit of fun. You're gonna go extra heavy and drop set. Yeah, the love-hate starts turning up on the legs now. Yeah, so we're gonna introduce a sissy squat. Old school, nasty thing.
Works well, right?
But it works well. Yeah, very, very well. Well, worked for Tom Platz, didn't it? It's not a move I've mastered. What a beauty. You do have to save energy to dismount though on this. Oh. Right, so what we're going to do now is going to introduce a walking lunge. Hate them, absolutely detest them. So I'm trying to go out at an angle similar to how a skater moves. I could go straight down the middle, but if we can imagine that with the dumbbells, they'd be here, okay? So by going out at an angle, you get the arms to follow where the working leg is. So now when I put the dumbbells in my hand, and I've gone out and I'm following that lead leg where all the work is taking place. You then get the double weight, so two double 17.5 kilo dumbbells there are either side of that working leg. I'm thinking here as well, big toe leads, knee follows. Big toe leads, knee follows. And always, I can see the big toe. If I can't see the big toe, the knee angle is wrong. Now that I'm happy with the work we've done there this morning on my quads. Don't think there is anything further that they need today, but we'll finish off with a bit of calves. Always tell there, look at all that blood in the legs. Always see the yellow come in the skin. You know you've flushed them full of blood. You know if I tried to flex them now, it'd be absolutely pointless. As I head towards this competition, when is my last leg day? When do they look at their best? During the week, I spend time, so tomorrow I'll flex my quads. How do they look? I'll flex them again. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. See which day they look their best. And then I can gradually start to predict when that is that last leg day before the competition in Manchester. You know, because 11 weeks out last time, I had good legs, what everybody in the street would call good legs, but I didn't have, you know, engaged legs, which there was no lines like this. This is poor now, because they're just full of blood and they're not working. So, whereas other muscles, you know, you train biceps and flex your biceps, you look like Arnie and you're having a great time. Calves, 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 and more calves. And realistically, I'm training to sharpen my calves. I know I've got good calves. I'm not training to build them. Just imagine how I would look if all my muscles looked like my calves. Hey, hippie, game over. See you later, fellas. We can dream. Now then, another thing that, for general sort of public as well, I don't stretch my legs. I obviously don't stretch them before. I mobilize them. I mobilize them on the adductor and abductor. I move them a little bit, doing these sort of things, opening up joints, you know, bit of a leg swing, but I don't stretch. I don't stretch until the work's done, because then the stretching will help the recovery. And they'll help create a nice looking muscle. I always think stretching's good. I do a lot of core and stretch exercises with clients. So I'm doing probably 5 to 6 hours of stretches a week in just general work. I'm very fortunate with that. So a lot of people say to me on my training days, they won't see me stretch, but they don't watch me with my clients going through the series of stretches that they do. So stretching's important afterwards, after the work's done. So here I'm thinking calves, belly of the calf. Then how's it feeling in my heel? For anybody who's struggling to develop calves, here's a top tip that will never fail you, is if you are struggling to develop calves, guess what? Walk around on your toes. Stop being flat-footed. If you see now, my calves, how they change shape by being on my toes. I know I've trained them, but if I walk around flat-footed, nothing. If I walk around with a spring, you know, and I think it was Bill Pearl, he developed his calves purely on walking around on his toes. I think Frank Zane might have done something very similar. You know, you look at the ladies, the fitness competitors in the ladies, when they put their heels on, you know, they're up on their toes straight away, great sharp calves. So get up on your toes and you're basically gonna develop a calf. If you do any sporting activity that requires jumping, so basketball, any sort of things like that, jumping, morning, then you'll have great calves. Weight, really, really happy. So to get the lower weight position this morning, so like I say, it was 71.7. So that's the lowest I've been since leaving the stage in Leicester last year. You know, so we're down now 11 kilos. Very, very good place. Energy is good. That's the other thing. So I'm lighter because I felt less energized a few weeks ago at 73 kilos than what I'm currently feeling now at 71. So we're coming down nice and steady as we need to, keeping that elasticity in the in the body, especially around the abdomen. So if you can imagine, if I bulk up, and that's why I don't like the, you know, the shitty bulks and things like that, because it's all right when you're young, you can fill it out and then reduce it all back down in and hope that elasticity is there. But for me now, meals are just nutrient dense that doesn't actually hold anything at all. So I'm never bloated. They're tiny, tiny meals. Get them in, feed it regularly so that nothing comes bigger, smaller here. So I'm not creating an issue with the elasticity of the skin, because when we get on stage, it literally comes down to paper thin skin with muscle behind it and then popping that muscle out. So I don't want to look like a deflated baggy balloon that's been forgotten about from the children's party behind the sofa and then it gets pulled out 6 months later. I want to nearly look like that balloon after a year, so it's really right down and baggy and loose, and then pop it up. So I'll be smaller because the balloon is shrunk, but then I'll blow it up with the carbs and things like that in the last few days, and that will bring my muscles out to their full extent and fill the skin and make the skin be peeled even more thinner because it's being stretched around a big belly of muscle that's inside. That's really the perfect peak week, is to complete that look. So yeah, that's the goal, and we're going in all the right places to achieve it. So yeah, it's all good.